So, 500 years ago, Columbus did not discover America. Enough said, right? And so to start my story, I have to go back 500 years ago because people don't think about the first people. They don't think about the fact that we had a society, we had an educational system, we had a political system, we had an economic system, we had an educational system. I mean, my goodness, we thrived for thousands and thousands of years. But since 1492, 98% of the indigenous population was wiped out. Now just let that resonate. If 98% of this room left, who would be left? Not even a whole person would be left. And I share that because I still carry that. That history is still in my DNA. Okay, Nora, it's been 500 years. Get over it. Okay, fine. Let's talk about the 60s and the 70s. Right here in Greensboro, there was a newspaper article. I have a copy, and we're called the Invisible People. Now, this land is truly my land. Where am I from? I'm from here. There were no borders. I didn't come over on the sea. My ancestors, my family, my sense of being is right here. So in the early 70s, a lot of and this was again by Washington, D.C., had the program they realized that it cost too much to kill them because, the boarding schools, and that's a whole nother conversation for another time, but they had boarding schools where they took our children and they were going to kill the Indian and save the man. Well, the other part was to get them off the reservations because, oh yeah, by the way, the reservation was just land the United States government didn't want. Unless later they found oil on it and then they moved them again. Okay. So in the 70s, my parents moved to Greensboro to find better opportunities for their children. What do you think? Do you think Greensboro was here and opened up their arms? No. My parents couldn't get a loan from the bank until the white man who owned the company, and he was a good white man, but he had to sign for them to get a loan. And they almost didn't get in the neighborhood in High Point because there were no other non-white people there. So my daddy left his mama, and I didn't realize the impact of that until I had my son. My mother left 10 brothers and sisters to provide a better life for their children. I hated going to school. Where are you from? I'm Lumbee. What country is that? Well, my favorite has always been, but are you a real Indian? No. Are you 100% Indian? As if I'm 99.999 wouldn't be Indian enough. Oh, and do you speak Indian? Well, there's over, 500 different indigenous languages, even the ones that are left, right? Because a lot of them also died. So when you talk about community, imagine what this 9-year-old felt going to school. I couldn't wait till Friday because on Friday we all packed up and we went back to Robeson County. And I swear I could feel the moment we crossed that county line because I was home. I didn't have to justify who I was as an individual. I didn't have to prove my Indianness. I could just be, and I was with family. So what happened was the Native people, like my parents who had moved to this community, found out they had moved here for better opportunities for their children. And what was happening? their children was dropping out of school and moving back to Robeson County. That's exactly what happened to my sister. In the 11th grade, we came home one day from church, and she had left a note, and she had left to go back home to Robeson County because there was no sense of belonging. So now this wasn't 500 years ago. This was back in the 70s. At that time, I became involved with Guilford Native American Association. I served on their board, and I've been volunteering my time. I'm actually in IT. Do you know why I love computers and math and science? Because it doesn't matter if it's a red one or a black one or a white one. 1 and 1 will always equal 2. And that's where I feel comfortable. But I volunteer my time because I had an opportunity to go to a daycare. And again, you don't appreciate things until you became a parent. But I had captivated 4-year-olds for 20 minutes. I thought I had done a good job. Absolutely. But later the teacher came out and she said, "Oh my goodness, Nora, I am so sorry." And I was like, "I don't understand." She said, "Well, one of the little girls wouldn't come out and see you because she heard the Indians were coming." That was my defining moment. That the Creator had given me a gift, and that was my voice, and it's the voice of my people. That if John Wayne had done that much damage at a certain young age, then surely there's something I can do to counteract that. And so since I was 18, I volunteered, and I've been to schools and to churches. I've even had the opportunity to speak at Fort Knox, and no, they still wouldn't let me see the money. But what is my message? First of all, we are still here. Now that may seem simple, and that may seem to some that a given, but oh my gosh, every single day of my life, I have to remind people that we are still here. And there's more than one tribe in the United States other than the Cherokee. And don't get me wrong, I love my Cherokee brothers, even though we fight in Washington all the time for recognition. But there's more than Cherokees, and we don't all have brown skin and long hair. And talking about being accepted, you'd think I was Pocahontas that stepped out of the history book. But I wasn't any more accepted than my sister, who was a little lighter than me with curly hair. So I had a mission. I would give the voice. I would let people know we're still here, and we still practice our culture. No, there's not a Lumbee language, but there's a story behind that. There's a reason for that. Am I already at 7 minutes? Oh my God! And that's my second point. Real quick, my call to action is when I had children, my mission was to make sure that they didn't grow up in this same community. So one afternoon, my 2-year-old, my daughter, and you'll appreciate this, come home to tell me that little Johnny told her she was not a real Indian because all the real Indians were dead. After all my life's work. And I said, "Raven, what did you say?" I looked at him and told him I wasn't a member of the dead tribe. I was a member of the Lumbee tribe. So I was able to change their paradigm. And that's what I ask of you. Change your paradigm, change your thought process when it comes to the indigenous people. Thank you.